transition between a lot of business leaders when they moved from gut-based decision making to data-based decision making. So mid 2000s, I think a lot of companies evolved from gut-based to data-based decision making using mathematical models to build a lot of scraping algorithms or scraping scripts. We kind of took our experts to build the first few scripts using Copilot, and then the Copilot learns along with you, and it basically replicates your coding style, a lot of what you do, and obviously you get some help as you write the scripts as well. So after building the initial base scripts, then we used to give it to a larger set of people, so they have almost a ready script and have to make minimal changes. Customer feedback was based on threats saying that I will sue you or things like that. You can classify that topic and ensure that that order or that customer care department goes on hyper alert and it's a very different kind of sentiment analysis. But this is to prevent these kind of orders then further going into litigation. Adoption is key. I think early adoption is key. You cannot say that, okay, AI will either take away my job, so I'll not code and things like that. So you have to learn the nuances of AI. You can make your code better. That is one thing. And even if they have 500 agents, and tomorrow if I tell the person who's bought Salesforce that I can do your customer onboarding better, just that agent, I can plug in that agent where I have more details, I have more logic, I have better algorithms and so on. So customer journey is a workflow. So if they've identified the customer journey, you probably need to define what journeys where agents will make a bigger impact, a campaign or campaign effectiveness, or ensuring that a campaign effectiveness is tracked, maybe personalized campaign effectiveness is tracked, and just that the agent turns out or churns out newer campaigns based on generative AI. Maybe it's a lot more effective there. The other area that I see a lot of focus will be in usage of AI generated audience, synthetic audience kind of thing. So that entire market research industry is prime for disruption.
Hi, and welcome to this exciting episode of Leading with Data. Today I have with me Navin Dhananjaya, who is currently the Global CXM lead for Dentsu Global Services. And he brings an immense experience of working with Fortune 100 companies and building their AI and Gen AI products. Navin has also been an entrepreneur, and he started one of the first companies in India in analytics space. And over time, he has gained immense experience. And today, that is what I'm looking to learn from him. Welcome to the show, Navin.
Thank you, Kunal. It's a good opportunity to speak to you.
Sure. So, Navin, let's go back to how you got into analytics and data science and now AI and ML. So, what has been your journey from your perspective?
Yeah, like you said, I think I happen to be part of an early wave of analytics, as you would say, when I started Manthan. But much prior to that, I used to work with enterprise business software companies like SAP, where I worked a lot with the data modeling, data warehousing, and that's basically the foundation of where my analytics journey started.
Interesting.
And we never called it analytics then, but now everything that you do with reporting and data warehousing is also called analytics. So a lot of work in data started long before I actually co-founded the company. But since then, it's been a continuous a journey with data and database technologies, and then it's evolved into analytics, evolved into AI, evolving into agentic AI. The journey continues.
And in this journey, what have been, let's say, a few aha moments for you, or what have been, let's say, significant milestones in the journey?
I think a few interesting things were the first time when I was certified as a data warehouse consultant, and this is as long back as 1999, just before the Y2K thing on the SAP software, in terms of how you could manage models or how you could manage data warehouse or how you could work with the data systems for decisioning.
And this would be cube-based systems.
This is a cube-based systems. And so you normalize data, you bring data models, and then you normalize tables, you create fact and dimension tables. There's learnings that I can't forget because of how it was taught to us then. I mean, learnings have become very different now. So that fact and dimension tables have further has been ingrained in my mind even now, because in a lot of my interview questions, I do ask model management at a basic level, at a database management level. I ask concepts of normalization and things like that. But that said, that's one aha moment. There have been many aha moments throughout the journey, but other than that, I think a couple of others I would like to highlight is when I was working with pure play analytics companies, the transition between a lot of business leaders when they moved from gut-based decision making to data-based decision making. So mid 2000s, I think a lot of companies evolved from gut-based to data-based decision making using mathematical models. I think that was another aha moment. We completed a lot of projects then. Then the other thing is in our journey with when we started Manthan itself, basically how we used learnings from there to create insights for our clients in a particular vertical industry. In that case, it was retail. That was another aha moment. And more importantly, both, if you remember the Amazon ad from about 6-7 years back, it was called Or the Cow, where they used to talk about products one after the other. That count was done by Merkle at that point of time, and basically that led to a lot of other projects where we would do attributions for the products that we counted then, and then classification of the products, and then auto attributing that using AI. I think that was the genesis of where I transitioned from analytics to AI.
Wow.
That was back in 2016-17, and the reaction from the audience, both our clients, and these are clients like Amazon and others at that point of time, gave that impetus to saying, okay, this has legs.
Interesting.
Obviously, from transition from there to how analytics can scale, and was for me or the teams that I built, was relatively, I would say, straightforward because of the engineering background. But as an industry, AI and analytics scaling required a lot of technological expertise. And going forward, I see that barrier also going down with the kind of agent force technologies that is there.
Just want to double click on the Amazon example. So can you elaborate, for example, what was the initial requirement, and then how you went about building that solution, and finally the results, and then the impact it created?
I'll take and generalize it to any retailer, I would say. So this is more like when a retailer onboards products on its sites, it requires attributes. So typical set of attributes are anywhere from 3 to 4 when they get from a catalog, if it is a branded entity, or even if they have more, it's about 10. For a product to be searchable, for a product to be discoverable on internet using all the search engines, it requires an average of 30 or 40 attributes.
Got it.
So you can, and it requires appropriate classification. So you can take an example of a sports shoe. So sports shoe can be in fashion, sports shoe can be in under shoes, sports shoe can be for fitness and well-being. So there are different classifications of the same sports shoe.
Correct.
And if the trend is of fitness, or trend is of some celebrity endorsing fitness, then the sports shoes under fitness will sell more. And if your particular shoe is not classified under that, then the selling will not happen. As long as if your competitor has had the same shoe in fitness, it will sell more.
Of course.
So based on a lot of outside inputs like these, you would classify the shoe appropriately.
And
so
that's
that is
probably the reason why search at, let's say, site A or Amazon feels very different from the search on, let's say, a competitor. Right.
And you have to continuously do this because trends change, and trends have been changing significantly faster over the last several years, right? So this is one example how you could do it. And then the second one is, assume that you've identified the problem. So we had our own methodologies in terms of, based on the traffic to a site, what is how much traffic comes to a particular site, what kind of products are more sellable, and what kind of products are going away because your price elasticity is less. So we would give recommendations on positioning a product, just about the product being there. The second is about, if the product is being there and is searched, are you price competitive enough based on the competitor? And for both of that to happen, are you attributing it enough? So from about 10 attributes, if you want to go to 30 attributes in a short span of time, one is to get a team of 100 people. I'm just taking a random example for like a couple thousand products. Otherwise, you do it using some automation, using some models, and using AI to augment that.
Interesting. And these attributes, so once you extract it from, let's say, either AI or human generated, then they go into the systems, and then how does that feedback loop come in? So for example, whatever changes you did, its impact, and then how do you see whether that attribute was the right one to fit in?
That's a good question, and these things, this typically what the clients would ask you as well. So traditionally, at least over the last 10 years, whatever systems we've built what is called as augmented systems. So when I say augmented systems, either they are augmented using humans or they are augmented using further systems that we will build. So if I needed to impute, say 10 attributes and 8 got filled, first of all, we need to check whether the 8 are correct or not. And then you impute the 2 remaining through human interference and intervention. And then you kind of feed that back into the system. So the next time the model looks to impute, it will ensure that at least those 10 are filled. And then you worry about accuracy and so on and so forth.
Interesting. So it evolves
we've
over time.
always built a learning system, which is right now, you call it reinforced learning nowadays, or you call it augmented learning even in the system. So that I think combination will continue. And the other interesting thing is, unlike a pure product-based company, we're always, at least I was always a part of product plus services companies that allowed us to have teams that complemented whatever engineering platforms we built. So that was very important.
Interesting. And in this journey, specifically over the last, let's say, couple of years, right? So Gen AI has come to foray. What was your aha moment with generative AI technologies? And then was it, with ChatGPT, was it pre-ChatGPT, or was there any particular moment which you remember which made you really think about the possibilities and the impact it can create?
Yeah, so we had this, we used to, when we initially built our cognitive system, we called it Jarvis. So there was this moment when we built this module that said Jarvis can write, which basically wrote content for a lot of e-commerce products.
And this was pre-ChatGPT?
This was pre-ChatGPT. So that was the pre-ChatGPT world. And then again, it was a combination of what the algorithm would do, and then obviously you would correct it. But the fact that you could come so close to writing it had a lot of promise. And of course, ChatGPT can do significantly better than what we did that time. But then that's where that evolution enabled, at least personally for me, to understand what the power of AI could do. And obviously with large language models, the other thing that has happened in a lot of these algorithms that used to be, as they released beta versions and all of that, we also took learnings from a lot of these models. Say image classification, the models were released earlier. We used to take some of these models and augment it with our learning or train it with our set of images so that it is more contextualized to our problem statements.
So fine-tuning in some sense.
Fine-tuning, and then again you call it augmented learning of the models as well. So basically we used to take out a few layers of that model and train it with our layers so that it can classify our kind of models better.
And these were deep learning based.
These were deep learning models.
Transfer learning was the term which was used.
So a lot of transfer learning is what we did.
Yeah.
So at least for the models that we implemented. Now, why I'm saying that we augmented that or we ensured we did transfer learning is the context of our problem was then far superior to what you would get in any commercial AI system that existed, and that proved to be the differentiator wherever we.
So you would add a few more layers of
remove it probably,
remove and then add. Interesting. And so this was on the deep learning models, and then what was, let's say, the initial few Gen AI based applications, and how did your let's say innovation and then just changing the customer experience evolve from that point to where we are today?
So I'll take 3 examples on that front. Especially one is maybe an internal code based problem. One is like a customer feedback problem, and the third one I'll use the example of how we do it real time for marketing. So the first one was in a typical coding exercise. All of you have heard of Copilot.
Right.
So Copilot has this capability of, it's a generative AI based toolkit, coding system. But we used to scrape a lot of data to build a lot of scraping algorithms or scraping scripts. We kind of took our experts to build the first few scripts using Copilot. And then the Copilot learns along with you, and it basically replicates your coding style, a lot of what you do. And obviously you get some help as you write the scripts as well. So after building the initial base scripts, then we used to give it to a larger set of people. So they have almost a ready script and have to make minimal changes.
So that becomes a template for the larger team to use.
And as the larger team develops that, they in turn make it more efficient. So what typically would have taken, say, as an example, a team of 100 people, we managed to do it in like a fifth of the team. Wow. So using about 15 to 20 people, we're able to generate this. And this was a fairly large project that required, at least we were on this project for almost 2 years, and this was for one of the Fortune 100 clients. And we were able to significantly add value both internally and to what the client wanted.
And to the business, it would mean, for example, let's say if we have a holiday season coming up, something which used to take 100 people working overnight during the season could be done in 20% of the time.
Very little time, yeah. Exactly. And it's the efficiency here, clearly. The other one is, say, topic modeling in customer feedback. So there's a couple of things in a lot of customer feedback systems, and I'm going to generalize a little bit here rather than going to specifics of the example, but you will get a gist of it. Is that if customer feedback was based on threats, saying that I will sue you or things like that, you can classify that topic and ensure that that order or that customer care department goes on hyper alert and it's a very different kind of sentiment analysis, but this is to prevent these kind of orders then further going into litigation. And we have tangible proof that we've prevented millions of dollars of litigation based on something like that.
This case, you were using essentially a large language model to understand the feedback in a more nuanced way and essentially then taking action. So there was no generation as such, but
here it was not a large language, almost like a small language model of sorts, but we were using it in the context of what data we had. So we had collected a lot of data in the past. So that is where it was. A third case is, I mean, again, falls in between both these elements of what Gen AI can do and what large language models can do. Is we are all used to seeing a lot of these OTT serials and things like that. So for one of the media houses, we even looked at TV serials, and based on the theme or the sentiment of the serial, we could then pitch in the ads, and the same ads could be different for different audiences watching it. And once the audiences were again identified based on what their preferences were. So it is like a three-way thing. So first of all, you're talking to a client, then you have your audiences, and you are adding attributes to both audiences and what is happening real time in terms of themes, and mixing both to generate the relevant content ad as it may be.
So just to put it in business context, while let's say a IPL match is going on, a person sitting in Chennai would see an ad for that team and probably a different dish if it is, let's say, Zomato Swiggy versus, let's say, someone sitting in Delhi. And then all of this happening in
real time. Yeah.
Interesting. And in terms of impact, was there, I mean, for something like this?
Here we have classified, we have a tangible impact as well in terms of increased impressions, increased viewership, all of that. So there are tangible metrics based on which we further augmented a lot of these attributes that I'm talking about. So this didn't happen day one. All the three things that have happened in three different stages, but it's still going on, and there are tangible metrics that we are doing.
And today, when you step back a bit, right, and in terms of just reflecting on the amount of changes which have happened in the domain, how do you see the life of a practitioner and a leader changing, and how should their, let's say, thinking framework adopt to with the kind of changes happening in the background?
I think at least in the AI world, I think you can learn a lot from AI itself. I would use a lot of generative AI to learn, to be my teacher of sorts. I have a friend of mine who started something on his own. He kind of uses Gen AI in two things. He uses it for a lot of his legal contracts. He uses Gen AI himself, and he's senior to me, and he's using it at this stage. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, he's kind of optimized the prompt so much to use it in that fashion.
And not in only an area where you would not want any hallucinations and
Absolutely. No, I've done pilots in this case, even for our company, but this guy using it real time is amazing. I was thinking
right.
like, then I'm behind. So you
Behind.
can, some of
Correct.
these guys, when they use it very differently. So that's, one thing. Maybe the AI itself will teach you a lot more. The second is that adoption is key. I think early adoption is key. You cannot say that, okay, AI will either take away my job, so I'll not code and things like that. So you have to learn the nuances of AI. You can make your code better.
Yeah.
That is one thing. The other thing is it is just the journey that you are in. So you will just use a lot of these systems to make things better. So I think the learning mindset will be key for you to adopt and then add value in whatever form you can.
So this is almost what we were discussing before we started recording, having a childlike mindset and how Gen Alpha can actually adopt to new interfaces. Uh, Very interesting. Looking a bit forward and projecting into future, right? AI agents are going the way they are developing and the way industry is forecasting. I think 2025 is now being said that this would be the year of AI agents. So, can you share your perspective on what agents can enable, what kind of applications can they do, and what sort of projects or problems can we solve with these agents, which would have been, let's say, theoretical constructs a few years back?
I'll take simple example because some of this and everybody and anybody is talking about AI agents, right? And I do believe that agents will make a difference. That's one. A lot of enterprise software companies are also reimagining how their functioning will work because of agents coming to the fore. Like large companies like Salesforce itself are promising over I think 500 plus agents using the agent force and things like that. But what agents can do, like in a simple form, if you are the front desk person in a bank where you go to open an account, from simple things like that to when they ask you your name and details and a little bit of whatever documentation is needed and get an account to be opened is a simple task that we would have automated in the past. Many companies would have done that, but in a conversational manner, an AI agent can do it. So making it more personal
and also more context.
So the same agent or bot can talk to you slightly differently, talk to me slightly differently, but in the end of the day, it is seeking just those four inputs and closing the thing. Now, once you open an account, it can hand it over to the investment guy to make it where the investment guy basis on your portfolio versus my portfolio suggests different things. There's another reasoning agent. It's another agent that can do this work, and that is another important thing of how handovers can happen. Now, these two workflows, if it can be integrated by a third agent that manages the workflow, is where the differentiation starts coming. And more importantly, it might even go and tell you that, okay, suggest investments for Kunal up to say 1 CR until he reaches or a breakthrough of like 12 or 13%. You can give it a goal. So then it will work on your portfolio and continuously work till you get a 12 or 13% return to that extent. Wow. Now how real is that? I don't know whether, because you can always work with your broker or somebody like that to get to the 12 or 13% thing. But these 3 steps done by an agent is real actually. So that's something that people are building, and to what extent it will succeed and how effective it will be is for time to tell. But now if you can imagine this, there is a whole number of use cases or enterprise software that will change, and I firmly believe that Salesforce is doing the right thing, because the entire CRM package in itself, I think, is bound to be disrupted. So now imagine, if they don't have agents, and even if they have 500 agents, and tomorrow if I tell the person who's bought Salesforce that I can do your customer onboarding better, just that agent, I can plug in that agent where I have more details, I have more logic, I have better algorithms, and so on and so forth.
And it's running 24/7. It is running 24/7 at all times.
So there's no doubt that there are certain areas or certain softwares that will see a complete disruption out of this. You can even do very different kind of objectives, like saying that, okay, If you're gonna, you can say that replicate Bill Gates investment portfolio for me.
Okay.
Now how it does that is all of these guys file different kinds of returns, and
SEC filings.
so they take from that returns in terms of what their investments are, and it can replicate that as a matter.
Right.
And then there are advisors sitting in between, and advisors can always have what you want. They will advise you, but if you write that logic, some basic logic as to, and people have written algorithmic trading packages and things like that. All of them can fit into reasoning models within an AI agent.
Right.
So it builds on and on. I mean, there's no end to where it can.
And so let's say for a enterprise which has been reading and which has been seeing all the action, they want to probably do a pilot or start with using this technology. How would you say that they should think about this, and what should be some of the, let's say, best practices which they should think about before starting this journey?
See, in a lot of these cases, there are open source frameworks available. They basically do the same. They use the same layers below in terms of large language models or line chain and stuff like that. So I would say that at least from an enterprise software, I think you need to get your liability/legal covered first, because agents can run riot.
Yeah.
So that having done that, I think if your basic, if it is a cleaner enterprise version, I would go for, if it is even if it is a pilot, I would go more for enterprise software, enterprise versions, which is a lot more responsible, which is inside your firewall of sorts, or which is in a dedicated cloud, where you can experiment with it a little more clearly, or a little more objectively. And within that experiments, I think the timeline for these getting an agent up and running is very quick. It's not going to be that far. So in about 2 to 4 weeks time, you can definitely get one agent working. For you to scale, I think I would step back and see what workflows. A lot of companies have journeys identified. We talked a lot about customer journey. So customer journey is a workflow. So if they've identified the customer journey, you probably need to define what journeys where agents will make a bigger impact, say campaign or campaign effectiveness, or ensuring that a campaign effectiveness is tracked, maybe personalized campaign effectiveness is tracked, and just that the agent turns out or churns out newer campaigns based on generative AI. Maybe it's a lot more effective there. Things like that. So I think I would, at an enterprise scale, I would probably study the workflow, study the foundational layer, and replicate that in the agents that will be more effective to start with before jumping on to multiple agents, because the real value is in having a series of agents work with each other. And more importantly, I would never take human out of the loop.
Of course.
So agents will help me make it more effective, but humans in the loop will add value to it.
So two follow-up questions, right? One, when a system like this is working, where there are multiple agents, each of them having their own, let's say, objective, how do you optimize and how do you monitor these? Because any of these agents can go wrong or hallucinate, or can, even if it is a slight distraction in the system, it can actually accelerate. So that's the first question. And then maybe we'll just go through the.
No, so this even true for AI and AI models as well. Correct. So I think even when I spoke last time, one of the things I am recommending is that you measurement of AI, implementation of AI is one thing, but measurement and what would be called quality of AI checks is important, and you want to measure the metrics first. And there were different measuring methods that have been told, and it is like right from, you need to adopt one and ensure that you have the right measurement for AI. Likewise for agents, I think it is evolving still, but to get the right framework of how you will measure the effectiveness of an AI agent will be very crucial for the enterprise.
Correct. And what's a good way to keep the human in the loop? I know there is a broad spectrum, but let's say going back to the campaign example, right? Now these agents are throwing out campaigns which are, let's say, sending thousands or millions of communications, do you do sample testing? Do you say that, here are the guardrails and anything outside of these get checked? So what's a good way to think about keeping the human in the loop in problems like this?
I think again it depends. Obviously, you don't want an agent to just set an objective function and kind of let loose. I think
Correct.
somewhere you'll have to do a dipstick, especially with agent influence. And if the effectiveness is not there, maybe pause and take a look at it. I think that's the change management that the industry will go through. There are published best practices, but unless I think a lot of this gets into production, this area of research will probably emerge, or best practices will emerge.
Right.
We do have a few, in the sense that as we go with our multiple agents in a workflow, what you can do in a workflow, and plus how elements of reasoning will work in a workflow. And mostly if elements of reasoning are limited to small language models, or even smaller micro language models for a particular decision making, I think it will make it more effective, as it may not go as rogue as it could possibly do.
So still essentially experiment a lot before scaling up, make sure that the guardrails and these workflows are in place, and then kind of interesting. And for someone who is just entering their career, and there is so much flux happening in technology, and for example, a few years back I would have said learn Python, learn machine learning algorithms, take a project and work. That template almost feels like it doesn't fit well now, right? So if let's say there is someone who is coming out of college and wanting to be part of this action, what's your recommendation to people like those, and how would you advise them to think about their career?
You still need to get your fundamentals there, because knowing Python is still necessary if you want to kind of augment the Python code that an agent is writing. So you're not going far away from that. But I would say augment your learning with a lot of what the AI world is providing. I would just and I would say that if you want to be multidisciplinary, one is about learning about what agents will do, or what you can do with agents. But the second thing is how you can help in the consumption, which will mean that articulation of what an agent will do, both from a technology and business perspective, both are important. And then there is a foundational layer, which is at a data layer or a cloud layer. I think that's an important technology as well. You can configure the technology using an agent or using AI, but you need to know the fundamentals of how the technology works. Otherwise, you will end up, consuming a lot more cloud dollars without knowing how to optimize the cloud.
So essentially, still focus on fundamentals. Make sure you understand the coding language, the math at least at a decent level, and then the infra things, and then kind of
I think everything is linked with. Nowadays the compute has become so easy to get.
Right.
I think some of these are very fundamental to how you will operationalize even an AI infrastructure.
Interesting. And just taking a very wild guess. So let's say if you had to share a few examples which you would love to see getting solved with agents, or any projects where you think this could be a huge impact in the next 2-3 years, or whatever time frame you want to choose, what would be some of those?
One is campaigns for sure. I think it's a big area of impact, and I think I would love to kind of see the entire campaign journey being serviced by multiple agents, whether it is running of the campaigns, whether it is generating of the campaigns, which is a lot of visual design and creative, measuring of the campaign. So all of that is one area. The other area that I see a lot of focus will be in usage of AI generated audience, synthetic audience kind of thing. So that entire market research industry is prime for disruption, and usage of syndicated research, usage of fast research using syndicated synthetic data or AI generated data, I think is going to create a significant disruption in that industry. So at least these two examples is what I would say.
And just double clicking on that, right? So we have gone from a world where you could say if there is a photograph or an image, this has happened, to a place where you no longer can trust uh, if you're seeing a image or now even video. Uh, do you see the same challenge coming up with data, specifically with, as let's say, the use and tools of synthetic data become more prolific, and so how do you see this space evolving? Synthetic data, its generation, usage, and then again responsibility in terms of how do you use those.
So I'll separate out synthetic data and synthetic audience.
Sure.
So synthetic data and how you would impute synthetic data will only add to what has been done so far. And I'm sure during your times as a data analyst and over the years, we've used methods to impute data.
Yeah.
So this will only help, is what I feel.
Sure.
Now, synthetic audience is an altogether different world. It
Yeah.
is evolving.
Correct.
It is not yet being trusted, but I think it is a means where faster research can be done on one thing. There is a lot of test and learn that can be done in a much faster, iterative manner and at scale using synthetic. So there is a lot of intermediate companies or marketplaces that provide real audiences today. They have to pivot to this world, otherwise they'll become irrelevant very soon.
Right. And then obviously the cost structures and the possibilities become immense, and it may be linked. So for example, when Google was building DeepMind, after a lot of iterations, it started coming up with its own strategy, which people had not seen, the famous move against Lee Sedol. That could also happen with synthetic data, right? So or researchers, or so things which are unlocked or not there in human knowledge as of now, or not as prevalent. Absolutely. Could start coming out. Very, very powerful. In terms of your own team and evolving these people, so at Merkle and Dhananjaya, how do you kind of nurture talent and on an ongoing basis upskill and be at the abreast of what's happening in the industry?
So a couple of things, I think, from being abreast in the industry, we do have experts that have built their expertise over many years, and they've gone through many generational analytics, as I would say, whether it is data warehousing or mathematical models or machine learning models, and now AI. We do participate in a lot of forums, India and in the US, where we get those inputs. We have both external and internal training curriculum in those areas. And we create, we gamify a lot of that. We have like promptathons for people to learn a lot about AI. We do internships where we kind of, at least the topics on the internships are a lot more to do with future tech related areas. So I think the teams or the mentors in some of those projects learn a lot more in those areas. And of course, there is a broader vision we put together, like every quarter, like this last few quarters, we have what is called as everybody needs to have one AI initiative. Okay. Whether it is internal related, internal optimization, or customer facing, or like it is disruptive. So we've classified into 3 or 4 areas, and they need to classify that, and we will probably monitor it, and in some cases even fund it. So, and this is broad based. So we've kind of given this out to almost 2-3 skip levels, which covers 200-300 people, and that basically represents a broad 5,000 people audience. And
we discussed about the promptathon as well. Can you share what adults?
I think we'll try and see if we can get a demo out for you, but we've done this at scale even for our leadership team, where we've kind of tried to solve problems using, it's almost like solving puzzles or riddles using some of those prompts. It's an interesting way of learning. We've got prompt battles where we have different teams fighting it out. We've got, we've continuously, evolved that curriculum so that a larger audience participates in that. We've got an AI month that was there, where through the month different teams showcased a bunch of things that they've done using AI or potentially want to do using AI. And so a lot of these helps bring about awareness. And then of course we've invested, or we are at least every year we are planning to invest in AI training. So we budget dollars accordingly.
Interesting. So Naveen, double clicking on that career advice piece, and there are people who may or may not come from coding background or data and analytics background. So what would be your recommendation to, let's say, people from these different backgrounds, and how should they think about it in terms of upskilling and their learning path of sorts, if you could?
Now, again, this is something that we had highly encouraged within the kind of people we hired. So we always encourage diversity in hiring from this perspective also. So we've had one of to give you one very interesting example, is one of our best person who does attribution was actually hired from Coimbatore Airport, because while buying
Oh, wow.
sweets, we realized how well she spoke and how well she attributed the product there. And she's
Wow.
been in the ecosystem for many years now, I think.
Very interesting.
So, but we use this example to see how people like them, people with a break and who have come. So when they've taken a break, and at least a lot of when we welcomed a lot of people with breaks, the technology that they worked in the past was very different than the technology layer that was there right now.
Yeah.
But they had the background of building systems, testing it very thoroughly during their times at that level. Nowadays, we don't test it as thoroughly, and we use that strengths to see how they can contribute both at a technology level or at a mental level. And some of those have been very effective.
Okay.
Then there are a whole lot of people who have done the education in computer science or IT, but have then gone on to do other things.
Right.
Like one of the folks we recruited was a badminton coach who
Oh,
was
wow.
who had done his bachelor's in computers, and then he had we had hired him, and he did extremely well because of his nature of coaching many seniors in the industry, in the game actually. He did very well in terms of ensuring that he articulated the report and the insights from the report very well to the client.
Of course, yeah.
And then obviously he's put in hard work. He's kind of moved on from it. Was a good stepping stone for him. So what I'm saying is, like, there are many paths to that success. You just need to have a foot in the door, either using technology or one of the competency that you have learned. And I would say that the kind of competency that is changing, and we talked a whole lot on Gen AI or GPT. I think those are very good instructional mediums for you to pick up on any new technology today. I would just recommend that you work hard on that, and then go deeper into whatever areas you want to do. Basically, whether it is just in the area of analytics, whether it is just a reporting kind of area that you want to be good with, or if you want to be good with data or databases or cloud. I think right from what you can do on a basic cloud infrastructure like AWS or Google or Azure, plus what you can do over and above that using something like Snowflake, or how you could become better. So that learning curve, as long as people can follow, I think it will be an enriching journey for them, because all of these areas that I'm talking about, they pay very well in the market. India is still short of a lot of talent in some of these areas.
Interesting. So essentially,
So
reflect on your strengths and identify the area where you would want to go deeper and establish yourself in that field. Great. Thanks. Naveen, towards the end of our episodes, we do a rapid fire questions with our guests, and the idea is to just know you better. So, any particular book which had a huge influence on you and which you would recommend to people?
I think there are a couple of books I'm reading. I just read a book recently called How to Jump the S Curves.
Okay.
It was written by ex-Accenture guys, in terms of how you, when we talked about this entire concept of analytics, and then machine learning, and then AI, and AI, and then agent. So each of them have some S curve. So basically, as one ends, the previous one has already started.
Right.
So how do you identify those trends and stay at top of that S curve? So if you plot the S curve based on time and impact, you kind of realize that. So something similar to that is what it's if you plot it in retrospective also, you realize how impactful it could be. So that I think is a good framework for me to leverage. So that's one of the recent reads that I would say.
Oh, wow. And does it leave you with some frameworks? For example, typically it's difficult to identify that curve at the start. So and analytics and data science was one term, and then machine learning started picking up. So does that give that framework?
I think more than identifying thing, it tells you that if you're on an S curve, how do you build on that and stay on top of the S curve. I think the key to be it is to stay on top of an S curve.
Interesting. It's called navigating the S curve.
Yeah, jumping the S curves.
Interesting.
Navigating and jumping. I think I forget, but I'll give you the name.
Okay. And any particular tool or app, which AI-based app, which you have started using a lot more in the last few years?
I think I use the AI-based search a lot more because I kind of
so Perplexity.
So I think I use that a lot more. I mean, I do searches based on some images or some hobbies that I pursue. Either like I typically use it. I mean, I was trying to help some of the conservationists with forest mapping. So for that, I'm trying to use something like that.
Okay.
So that is one area that I've specifically used AI a lot, more on the image side of things.
Wow. And you mentioned that you hire a lot of interns and ask them to almost pursue what they feel excited about. So any application which really stood out for you and was very different than what you would usually see?
I mentioned earlier in the thing called, when we trained our cognitive computing system to write, that was one such case instance and thing. In fact, early days of AI and image, we also had, dressing up of these models using AI. So they could when the catalog came out, instead of real models, the models and how AI could make them wear a particular dress.
Right.
So those two were pretty much interesting stuff that some of our folks worked on.
Great. Thanks a lot, Navin, for sharing your insights, your perspective, and thanks for setting this up and taking time out for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kunal. It was really enjoyable.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.